All right, everybody, right on time here, so I'm excited. Hopefully the microphone's working. I'm gonna get everything situated here. I'm gonna wait for a couple people to get on before I really get started. So we're gonna go through here so that way I can follow along with everybody who wants to follow along with me. Okay. Let's go. Okay. Oh, seems like I have too much going on for the internet. All right, so let's just dive into it then. And as we go through here, I will be addressing everything for you. So let's just do a little recap here. Brandon Gross is on. Awesome. Thanks, Brandon, for tuning in already. You're on time. I appreciate it. All right, so what we're going to be talking about is kind of like what we talked about last week, and it's going to be the topic of tackling cancer. Since it's football season, I kind of decided to choose that as my title for now. Could ultimately change, but what we're going to be going over is the disclaimer to start right off the bat. So remember that when we talk about these things, they're considered experimental. So in no way, shape, or form am I saying that I have a treatment for cancer or that I treat anything at all. Our number one goal is to return your body back. Hey, Dr. Mitch. Our number one goal is to return our body back to homeostasis. So I talked to a couple people today. I'm going to start using easier words. Homeostasis is not usually one of them, so I have it written up here on the board. So homeostasis, there's not many words I'm going to have you or want you to remember, but it's very, very important when we're talking about health and healing. All right, this is one of the things that we work with so endearing is that we try to get our bodies to go back to normal or go back to that homeostasis or that normal balance. So normal body balance is basically how I'm going to simply describe homeostasis to you. So our goal is to get our bodies back to that. And so I'm going to recap from last week. I have some things here, some little cancer nuggets. So the number one question here is, do we control if we get cancer? So for all of you who are on here right now, go ahead and leave in the comment box if we control cancer. It's a yes or no answer. What do you think? All right, we're waiting too long. So yes, we 100% control whether or not we get cancer. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is the things that are ultimately going to stack up against us. And cancer is not something that happens overnight. It's from years and years and years of wear and tear on your body. So the number two thing that we're going to be talking about is, do our genes doom us for cancer? Now, if you tuned in last week, you know that they don't. All right, we can have up to 70 to 90% of cancers are going to be dependent on your environment by itself. Now, you can get anywhere from the most or the maximum amount is 20% dedicated to your genes. But we're going to be addressing in next week's topics, it's going to be your epigenetics, and we're going to talk about how your 70 to 90% of the environment is actually going to dictate whether or not those genes express themselves or not. So the last thing here too, this is very, very important because again, we're going into our cancer awareness months. If we find out that we have cancer, are we just going to go to the health food store, or are we just going to Google MD ourselves and try to figure out what's the best juice cleanse or the best detox to do? No, because your cancer is going to be different than maybe your friend's cancer. And then when we talk about juice cleanses and we're eating foods to try to be more basic or more outlined to our bodies, it's very important to understand whether or not we have a food allergy to those individual foods. So when you have a food allergy, I'm going to go into this further in detail further down the line here, but when you have a food allergy, if you're eating foods that are inflammatory to you, you're actually going to be fueling your cancer with more inflammation in the body. So we don't want to be eating foods. You have to make sure that you test properly so that way you know what your limits are. So last thing here too is the homeostasis. We're going to be going over that today. So a couple people reached out. You know, I've never had cancer before in my life, all right, but why am I passionate about this topic? And I found it hurts my heart that I have to give Tom Brady credit here because I am a diehard Steelers fan, and my wife's my wife's dad is very, 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 or my father-in-law is very, very diehard Patriots fan. But Tom Brady is a very, very awesome guy. Now, I was detailing my wife's car yesterday, and I had NFL Today on, or one of the NFL channels on, and they were going into detail about this little girl that had reached out to Tom Brady and wanted to have an experience, wanted to meet him, wanted to, I think it was play some football with him, get some pictures taken and all this stuff. And Tom Brady was man enough. He's a very honorable athlete. He was man enough to be able to reach out to this girl and set up a meeting so that way they could hang out, took pictures together, and they had a great time. So as I was detailing the car, I was finishing through it. I always, unfortunately, know where the story is going to end up. This girl, her name was Haley. Looking for the exact last name. Her name was Haley. You could look her up. And basically what was happening is that she had a little bit of bone pain, and her parents were like, well, what's going on? They took her to the doctor, and they found out that that bone pain was actually leukemia. So, hey, Dr. Hemgren, good to see you. So it turned out it was leukemia. Now, this happened at the age of 5. She got this diagnosis, but she went undiagnosed for about 5 or 6 months. And then she was told that it was acute lymphocytic leukemia or B-cell leukemia. All right, so when we talk about the curability rates, if you want to, with that, it was said that it was going to be up to 97% curable. We're going to come back and we're going to revisit this because of this unfortunate outcome that happened with this little girl. So I'm going to read right off the slides here because there's a lot to it. After 2.5 years of treatment, all right, they said it was 97% curable. It took 2.5 years for this little girl to get treated with the standard medical procedure, chemo and radiation, you know, the ins and outs. 2.5 years, horrible side effects, and 3 near-death experiences. This girl was deemed cancer-free. All right, I'm going to go into that term and how much I hate the word or the term or the phrase cancer-free, but she was deemed cancer-free. So it came back about 10 months after being termed cancer-free. 10 months, she had, exactly, they treated it, Phoebe. 10 months after she had this diagnosis, she was a cancer killer, she beat it, you know, I beat cancer, and all of a sudden she gets hit with the diagnosis again, and it came back viciously, way worse than it was before. So the mom and dad gathered up, took her to get her treatments again so that way she could figure out if she had a fighting chance whenever it came to fighting this cancer. So they got it under control on August 2016. August 2016. Then in March 2017, before Haley turned 10 years old, cancer was back again. And they ran out of options. Now I went in, I dug through some more of the research, and found out that towards the end of the treatment, she was actually experimenting with cannabis oil and the treatment of cancer. And the reason that her parents opted to do that was because she was in a lot of pain, and they had read research and found out that cannabis oil can actually help in aiding in pain and then potentially with killing cancer. And it actually did have positive benefits on her whenever she was at that end stage, but it was too little too late. So when people ask me why I'm passionate, it's because of this, okay? And yes, Dr. Hemgren, it's always worse the second time around, because it's also not just worse physically, but it's also worse mentally, because you thought that you had it beat. You thought that you didn't have to fight this fight anymore. You thought you could wash your hands clean of it and push it aside and move on with your life. But if you never change that internal environment, you never change why that cancer came to begin with, it's going to come back. And that's the curse of knowledge that I have, and that's the curse of knowledge I'm going to share with you, is that if you don't change what caused it, it's just going to come back. And if I'm mean for saying that, I apologize, but it's the truth. So now let's talk about growing rates of cancer when we talk about cancer, all right? So each year, especially again this time of year, we have more and more of these colored ribbons coming out for different things with cancer. I found out that childhood cancer is gold, breast cancer is purple, blue is ovarian cancer, I think prostate cancer is camo, just all these ribbons. And when we talk about if we're getting better or worse, there's only one answer, and it's not a hard answer. It's we're getting worse. All right, we waged a war on cancer back in the day, but it's just been getting worse every single year. And now let's talk about this. Dr. Kobayashi, I love that last name. Dr. Kobayashi went and he tested asymptomatic or symptom-free adults. All right, symptom-free adults, and they wanted to test their cancer cells. They found out that healthy adults, again, symptom-free, they weren't diagnosed with cancer, healthy adults produce 500 to 1,000 cancer cells a day. Are you scared yet? We have cancer cells in our body, right? Only about 1 in 1,000 people is considered completely cancer-free, according to this research with Dr. Kobayashi. 70.6 or 71% have been deemed precancerous cells. 25% have been deemed preclinical cancers. 5% are undiagnosed clinical cancer with tumors over 1 gram. So bottom line, with all those boring stats, I know stats are boring, but all those things to have in mind is basically, unless you're 1 in 1,000 people, which is very rare, you're at some point going to have cancer or get cancer in your life. And I went over the statistics last week about 1 in 2 people gets cancer. So whether you had it diagnosed or not, you need to come back and understand that you need to do these preventative things to make sure your body doesn't keep producing those cancer cells and allow it to get out of control, and that's when the diagnosis hits. So, did I tell you that your immune system has a lot to do with this? It's the awesome part. So let's talk about this. So our immune system is phenomenal. All right, that's going to be the big overall topic for today. Is going to be the immune system dealing with cancer. So when we talk about the immune system, we all know that the brain controls all the function of the body, but we actually have specific cells in our body, they're white blood cells, that go after and attack cancer cells. It's pretty cool. They're called natural killer cells. And that's a really awesome term for a cell, right? So these natural killer cells are pretty phenomenal in going in, and they go after these cancer cells and take them out and get them under control. There's other cells too that are a part of this effect. So our body is made to kind of corral these cancer cells and take care of them, get rid of them, and cause apoptosis or cause a cell to die. All right? Now, these natural killer cells, some products say that they're amazing, that they'll have a 100% cure rate whenever it comes to curing cancer because they go directly and they influence your natural cancer cells. But if you actually research a little bit more into these natural killer cells, they're not the brightest bulb in the box if you want to. They're pretty dumb. So what I found out is that there are actually proteins that these cancer cells can throw on them, like a cloak out of Harry Potter. Yeah, you can't see me. Throws on these cloaks, and your body cannot tell the difference between a cancer cell and a normal cell. And that cancer cell just goes through and just runs away. And it can infiltrate, it can metastasize, it can do all these things. So you have to make sure that you need to make sure your immune system and your body is functioning at 100% and it's not distracted, so that way your body can attack these cancer cells, because our body is designed to attack these cancer cells. So number one thing is your immune system can and will eliminate these cancer cells from your body. Now the thing is whether or not your cancer cells are in attack mode, whether they're on the offense or they're triggered into a repair mode. Now that's something that's a little bit deeper than most people go into. This repair mode is actually very unfortunate when it comes to cancer cells because it protects it. It thinks that the cell is damaged, so the body comes and gives that cell as much as it needs. It never heals, and it starts getting what's called angiogenesis, or more vascularity, more blood supply to that cell to allow it to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger and get out of control. So that's something that you have to make sure your body has to be in that attack mode. It cannot be in that repair mode. All right, and that's again coming from the strong immune system. So make sure you're taking care of that. Number two thing here with the immune system is that advanced cancers can actually trick the immune system. So that's what I was talking about with putting a cloak on. It goes undetected, goes through the bloodstream. Some of them get taken out, but if they metastasize and go everywhere throughout the body, it's going to spread cancer. That's a very unfortunate thing. And the number three thing is the goal for natural remedies is to, again, modulate the immune function from getting it from a nursing the cell to going to the attack mode and go on the offense. Thanks, Dr. Flynn. I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting me talk about this subject because I'm super passionate about this. I just want to say real quick, thanks for everybody watching here as well. We're going to go over for some more stuff, but I saw Dr. Craig Onstott's on here, Dr. Patrick Flynn. Love all you guys. Brandon's on here, Phoebe's on here, Dr. Mitch is on here. Everybody's on here. I love it. Dr. Thomas Hemgren's in there. Maybe Laura's with you too. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you tuning in here. So I'm going to keep going on here. So we're going to go over some cool things here. So cancer is a protective mechanism. So I'm going to leave it at that. So cancer is a protective mechanism. So how is that possible, right? Because we were told that if you have cancer, your body's sick, your body's malfunctioning. But has anybody ever explained to you what that actually means? So your body, if you have cancer cells that are getting out of control and you're wearing your body down over and over again and you're not changing your environment, your body, again, I cannot stress this enough, is designed to keep you alive. So what it's going to do is it's going to build a wall around these cancer cells. It's going to try to make sure everything is set in there so it can't escape, and it's going to make what's called a tumor, right? So what happens is, like a house for cancer cells, your body, again, that tumor is like a house for your cancer cells. It wants to make sure everything is held in, make sure all the family's there and doesn't get out. So when I was going through here and I was going through some of the research, I found some pretty amazing things here. And I've always kind of said this, but I didn't have the facts to back this up. And now I do. So I'm very excited to share this with you. So when we go through, this is directly from the book that I use. I'll post the book link below, so if anybody wants to get it and read it, they're more than welcome to. When you go through and you do a biopsy, you do surgery, or you have injury to that tumor, guess what happens? Sends the tumor cell or the cancer cells throughout the body. It spreads it and metastasizes it. So when your doctor says, I want to go in, I want to do a biopsy and poke this house, basically open the door of the house, allow cancer cells to flow out so he can do a biopsy, what did you just do to your body? You allowed cancer to spread. Now what blew my mind was I knew about the biopsy, I figured with the surgery, because you cannot say, oh, I got all the surgery. That's a lie. If your doctor ever tells you I got all of it, he's full of crap. I apologize for almost swearing there, but it's true. So the thing that really threw me for a loop was just injury. And what popped into mind is, what if you have some sort of cancer? What if you have, stomach cancer, or you have colon cancer, something like that? And say you're in a car and you have a seatbelt strapped around you, you have your waistline, you have that belt right here, and all of a sudden you get into a car accident, right? You get into a car accident, is that enough trauma to cause those cells to shoot out of that tumor and spread throughout the body? And that's really made me kind of think. So I'm going to do some more research. I'm going to dive into that, because we could have cancers, we could have tumors in our bodies that we're not aware of, and we may injure ourselves, and that could be, swearing means you're smart. I appreciate that, Dr. Hemgren. I'm trying not to, though, because you know I'll go off on tangents on that. But I'm going to dive into more information on how that spreads. So again, when the doctor says that you're cancer-free, just like that little girl, just like Haley was told you're cancer-free, you have no more cancer, you have nothing to worry about, for goodness sakes, don't let your doctor lie to you, because if you didn't change anything and just remove the environment, you're still going to have the cancer. It's not a scientific thing. It's just a fact. It is what it is. I can't lie to you. I don't even need to show you research. I just get frustrated about it. Anyways, so let's talk about cancer. I kind of did a short little video on this. Cancer and calluses. So I'm going to give a shout out to the late Dr. Charles Majors. He did an amazing job as a cancer killer. And he used an analogy that I'm going to borrow from him, okay? This is the analogy. So if anybody knows me at all, my wife will tell you, my friends will tell you, I love working out, all right? So if I showed you right now, I have a bunch of calluses all over my hands here, all over them, okay? So now let's talk about that. Let's talk about how that relates to cancer. So I go to the gym. I pick up the weights. Dr. Hemgren, he's done a bicep workout with me before, so he knows I go crazy in the gym. And I'm doing my workout. And all of a sudden, my skin starts getting red, right? A little bit of inflammation in there. So it keeps getting more red, more red, more red. Maybe some of the skin tears a little bit there, okay? The skin tears, and if I keep doing that over and over again, what is my body going to do? It's going to increase the amount of cells on my hand, on the pads of my hands here, and what is it going to form? It's going to form a callus, right? So what did my body do? It protected me. So, Dr. Hemgren's still sore. So, your body is designed to protect you. So, if I didn't have these calluses on my hands, and I went and I picked up a shovel, or I picked up another dumbbell and I tried doing a curl, I have a higher risk for injury. Exactly, Dr. Flynn, I'm protecting myself. I have a higher risk of injury if my body didn't adapt to its environment. So now let's talk about how that relates to cancer. So say I'm born, all right, come fresh out of the womb, I get dosed up with vaccines. I get toxins in my body. Say I don't eat, or my mom doesn't eat the best food, and she's passing down toxic breast milk. If you want, I'm getting food allergies, I'm getting inflammatory food, she's passing regular milk through breast milk. Then I grow up, I'm eating bad foods, I'm drinking Diet Cokes and Diet Sodas, whatever you want to call them. I'm eating McDonald's day in, day out, day in, day out, same thing over and over and over and over again, okay? And say it starts affecting my digestive tract. So, same thing can happen. All of a sudden, my digestive tract starts to become what? Inflamed, right? So if it becomes inflamed, your body is trying to figure out what is going on. So the body gets inflamed, and I keep eating the same foods over and over and over again. So I keep destroying the skin or the intestinal lining. So if I keep doing that more and more and more, eventually what's going to happen is those cells are going to over-replicate, just like what happened to my hands, and instead of forming a callus on there, it can form a polyp. It can form a tumor, all right? Or it can actually cause an ulcer, an ulceration in the digestive tract as well. Again, your body is trying to add cells to a damaged area so your body can adapt properly. So just like my body is designed to protect my hands, my body is also designed to protect my insides. It's designed to protect everything that I have, even if it means you don't understand it initially, even if it means I get a tumor or I have a polyp or I have something else going on where my cancer is walled off. So the big point of all this thing is this whole talk is remember that your body is designed to protect itself. You're right, Dr. Hemgren. It's a natural defense. And the more we can aid in that natural defense and give our body exactly what it needs, the stronger that we can be. But it also comes down to understanding that if our body does do something, whether we really consciously or scientifically understand it, remember that your body is doing it to protect yourself as natural defense. So that's the biggest thing when we're dealing with cancer is we have to change the environment, make it stop adapting to a crappy environment, give it a flourishing environment, and allow our body to change over and change the environment and change the cancer that you have inside you. So yeah, Dr. Hemgren said 100% normal response. It is. It really, really is. So we talk about this all the time, is that your cancer doesn't just happen overnight. Hey, Dr. Hemgren's on here too. So your cancer doesn't just happen overnight. Now, so many people, they fear the diagnosis of cancer, and either they get that phone call, if you will, and they're like, oh my gosh, well, my life is over. I'm gonna have to change everything. I'm gonna have to rearrange my schedule. I'm gonna have to go get chemo. I'm gonna have to do radiation, all of this, and you know, my life, as I know it, is now over. And they think that in that moment, when they got that test back, whether it was 5 days, 10 days, whenever they got that diagnosis back, they think that somewhere in that time frame they got that cancer. It's not true. So I want you to rewind. Look at your past. Look back 10, 15, 20 years, however old you are. Look back and see if you've been making decisions to cause calluses or if you've been making decisions that are going to cause even further damage into the body and, again, allow your body to express cancer. So look back. If you can't honestly say, hey, I've eaten healthy, I've had my food allergies tested as soon as I was born, I know what traumas, toxins, and thoughts are, I've been working on all those things, I've been making those conscious efforts, moving in the right direction towards health and well-being. If you can't say that, then by all means you need to get tested now. Because if you're not tested now, when are you going to find out if your body is not feeling 100% or if it's not expressing 100% life? You're going to find out the hard way. You're going to find out when all of a sudden you have a loss of appetite, which is one of the most common signs of cancer. You're not going to think much of it. You're going to lose about 20% of your body weight, your lean body mass. You go into what's called cachexia, where you stop eating. That's when you're going to get that diagnosis. And you're going to wonder why you didn't invest in yourself now and do those preventative things now. And I'm going to teach you those things as we go through this webinar, as we go through this series. So know that you have the ability to be able to change your future realistically, because ultimately, do we have control over whether or not we get cancer? Yes, 100%. Do our genes basically enslave us to get cancer? No, it's just a portion of that. Okay, I'll explain that. That's actually going to be our topic for next week. We're going to talk about epigenetics, and then the juice cleanses and things like that. I'm going to teach you all the things that you're going to need to know whenever it comes to cancer, but I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to give you a one-size-fits-all approach, because a lot of that stuff is out there where people are saying you just need to go juice cleanse, you just need to fast, cut sugars, take a lot of vitamin C, go get chemo, go get radiation. You know, they're just throwing all these things out there that they Google MD themselves, and they think that that's the best approach for that person. But remember, each one of us will get cancer or have gotten cancer for various reasons. It's not the same. So that being said, next week we're going to be talking about epigenetics. So epigenetics is going to be controlled by a couple things. Now, when we look at the research, a lot of it comes down to downstream. So looking at like metabolic syndrome, dealing with more or less what the wellness ways deal with, which is going to be your traumas, toxins, and thoughts. So when you have traumas, toxins, and thoughts in your life, again, we'll talk about next week, you're going to be allowing your body to turn on your silent genes. Right? I talked about it last week, but it's like a loaded gun. Genes are like a loaded gun. They're harmless unless put into an environment to express themselves, just like cancer themselves. So tune in next week. I appreciate you guys all for being on here today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the box below. I'll make sure I get to them and I answer as many questions as possible. And if you do leave questions and you want me to go over some of your questions next week when I start the show, feel free to do that. So my goal, guys, is for you guys to like this, share it with as many people as you know who are going through cancer, going through chemo or radiation, and maybe don't even know what is going on with their bodies. Allow them to come to us or come to me as a resource, and I'll do everything I can to be able to give them as much information as I can. But the underlying thing comes down to I cannot guess. I would recommend testing for you guys. So thank you for tuning in. Again, share this, like this if you'd like to. If there's anything else you'd want to see or if you're curious about, write that down there below and we'll put that into the shows for weeks to come. So everybody have a great Monday night. I know everybody tuned in tonight instead of Monday Night Football, so I love it. So take care of yourselves, and I will see y'all later.